Have you ever just felt caught in a struggle between order and, well, chaos? It turns out that's the central story of the entire universe, at least according to the biblical narrative. It's this epic tale that stretches from way before our world even began, all the way to its final restoration. It's a constant battle between divine order, what we'll call cosmos, and darkness and disorder, that's chaos. So let's dive into this great cosmic story.
You know, the whole thing kicks off with a mystery, one that's kind of hidden in plain sight, right in the Bible's first 2 sentences. And this question, it sets the stage for absolutely everything that follows. Genesis 1, verse 1, it declares a perfect, clean beginning. But then you read verse 2, and it describes something totally different, a world that's basically in ruins. So you have to ask, what in the world happened between those 2 verses?
I mean, look at this. The contrast is just wow. On one hand, you have a statement of a perfect, finished creation, and on the other, you've got a scene of just total desolation. The Hebrew for this is tohu vabohu, and that's a really key phrase. It doesn't just mean empty. See, everywhere else it's used in the Bible, it's describing the aftermath of a massive divine judgment. This has led some people to believe that something catastrophic happened right between these 2 verses, some kind of pre-Adamic judgment that threw the world into chaos before the 6 days of creation, or maybe recreation, even began. So here's our roadmap. We're going to trace this whole story through 6 key stages. We'll start with a war that happened before our world, then see how chaos snuck into paradise, watch it just consume the early world, and then witness the arrival of the light. We'll look ahead to the final battle and finally see the incredible promise of a cosmos restored forever. All right, part 1, before the beginning. This is the story of a war that was fought before our world was even a thing. So let's rewind. Before Adam, before the Garden of Eden as we picture it, a massive conflict was already brewing in the heavens. And this wasn't a physical battle, it was a war of wills that would end up shaping the entire universe. At the very heart of this conflict, you've got these 2 big opposing forces. On one side, you have cosmos. That's God's perfect design, right? It's all about light, harmony, structure. And on the other side, you have chaos. That's the very essence of disorder, darkness, and just flat-out rebellion against that divine order. The entire Bible, really, is the story of God bringing cosmos out of chaos. Now, to understand where chaos came from, you've got to meet its first champion. The prophet Ezekiel gives us this picture of a magnificent angelic being, Lucifer, the morning star. And get this, he wasn't created evil, not at all. He's described as the absolute seal of perfection, just full of wisdom and beauty, a high-ranking guardian cherub right there in God's presence. He was the peak of creation until something inside him changed. And this is so important to get. Sin didn't start with people. It started with pride, deep in the heart of Lucifer. Isaiah actually records his arrogant ambition through a series of I will statements. I will ascend to heaven, I will set my throne on high, I will make myself like the Most High. He wasn't happy just reflecting God's glory anymore. He wanted that glory for himself. That one act of rebellion was the very first sin, and it's what turned him from Lucifer, the light bringer, into Satan, the adversary. It was the moment chaos was introduced into God's perfect cosmos. Okay, part 2, paradise and a lie. So, after being cast out, this new force of chaos sets its sights on God's brand new creation, Earth, and its new residents. The battleground was about to shift to the Garden of Eden. So God sets up this little pocket of perfect cosmos right here on Earth, the Garden of Eden. It was a place of total harmony. Adam and Eve, they had a perfect relationship with God, with each other, and with all of nature. There was no fear, no shame, no death. It was divine order made real. But chaos was just waiting for its moment. Satan, disguised as a serpent, whispers the very same lie that led to his own downfall. You can be like God. He plants this tiny seed of doubt about God's goodness, and it's enough. He deceives Eve. And with that one act of disobedience, humanity chose to break the harmony of paradise. And this right here, this shows you exactly how chaos works. The results were instant and they were devastating. First came fear. Adam and Eve hid from God. Then blame, as their own relationship started to crack. Then came the curse, as pain and death entered the story. And finally, exile from the garden. The perfect cosmos of Eden was shattered, and chaos just flooded into the human experience. That one act of rebellion in the garden, yeah, it didn't stay there. It acted like a virus.
It spread like wildfire, corrupting the whole human family and leading to bigger and bigger consequences.
I mean, just look how fast everything went downhill. The very first children of Adam and Eve, they introduced murder to the world. A few generations later, humanity is so wicked that God has to basically hit the reset button, using the chaotic waters of a flood to wash the earth clean. And it's not long after that, at the Tower of Babel, that human pride just skyrockets again, trying to build their own way up to heaven. God's response? He introduces the chaos of confused languages and scatters them all over the world. For thousands of years, it really felt like darkness and chaos had the upper hand. But then, at just the right moment in history, the story takes this incredible dramatic turn. A new power enters the fight, one that chaos has no answer for. The Gospel of John announces this arrival with one of the most powerful lines in all of Scripture. It's a declaration that the darkness, no matter how strong it seems, has finally met its match. A light has come into the world that simply cannot be put out. John calls this light the Word, or in the original Greek, the Logos. And that's not just a cool title. It identifies Jesus as the very creative power and divine voice of God. The same word that spoke creation into being back in Genesis 1, let there be light, has now become a person to live here with us. He is the ultimate expression of divine order. So if you look at it through this lens, Jesus' entire ministry was basically a full-on assault against the kingdom of chaos. When he calmed the raging sea, he was literally telling the symbol of chaos to be still. When he cast out demons, he was binding the agents of chaos. When he healed sick and broken bodies, he was restoring God's original orderly design. And by rising from the grave, he defeated the ultimate form of chaos, death itself. Now, Jesus' resurrection absolutely secured the final victory, but the war isn't quite over yet. The last decisive battle is still on the horizon, a climax that's laid out for us in the book of Revelation. The end of chaos really plays out in 3 stages. First, Satan is bound, and his power to deceive the world is massively limited for a long, long time. Then, he's let loose for one last final attack against God and his people. But this rebellion is put down fast, and the devil, along with every agent of chaos, is thrown into the lake of fire, defeated for good, for all eternity. And with the source of chaos finally gone forever, God finishes the story by doing what he always intended to do, restoring his creation to a state of perfect, endless cosmos. This comparison just shows you how complete the restoration really is. The specific curse from the Garden of Eden is explicitly and permanently undone. The very ground that was cursed because of humanity's sin is now declared forever free from that curse. And you have to catch this final detail here because it is huge. John sees a new heaven and a new earth. And then he adds, and the sea was no more. Now remember, throughout the Bible, the sea is that ancient symbol of chaos, of disorder, of separation. So for the sea to be gone, that's a powerful, beautiful way of saying that chaos has been totally and finally wiped out of God's creation. So what's left? Pure cosmos, a new reality where there's no more death, no sorrow, no crying, no pain. The tree of life, which was guarded after the fall, is now open for everyone. God himself lives right there with humanity, just like in the garden. And there's no more night, no more darkness, because God himself is the light. Every single consequence of the fall is gone, completely undone. This massive cosmic story, stretching from eternity past all the way to eternity future, it's not just some old tale. It's a framework for our entire existence, showing us that we're part of this incredible battle between order and disorder. And that leaves us with a final thought. If the ultimate story of the universe is bending towards a perfectly restored cosmos, how should that change the way we deal with the chaos we see in the world, and maybe even the chaos we feel inside ourselves, right here and right now?